Hi, it's Paula from Pola Quilting. Welcome back to my channel. Over a year ago I was making some cushion covers using the same fabric, but I wanted to make 4 different cushions, different outputs, and one of the blocks designs I've used for those cushions is this one, which was like kind of cut down version of the very popular block called potato chip block. I don't know where the name came from, but that's how it's called, and it's really versatile block because you can use up all of the scraps you've got, which you can cut to certain dimensions, and this depends how you lay them out, whether you go with darker in some spots, with brighter with some spots, with very colorful or some kind of toned down colors, solids, you know, mixed designs. You have so many different outputs out of that block, and you can just make that one design only till the rest of your life, and you have a million and one different quilts. Also, why I like that block is if you've seen my process for managing my scraps, I do cut certain bits and pieces to 2.5 inch strips. It's like a jelly roll strip, and if they are then shorter than 5 inches, 5, you know, or about 5-ish, I do cut them to 4.5 inch lengths. So potato chip usually is built from 2 different kind of dimensions. It's either a 2 by 3.5 or 2.5 by 4.5. Those are the most common sizes. So I obviously, as part of my scrap management, I've got this big box of 2.5 by 4.5 pieces, and every now and then, if I need to make a very quick quilt, I will pull out, you know, a section of it. I'll just sew it together really randomly, and I will make that potato chip block. It's very also good block for when you want to use some of your scraps as a leaders and enders. So kind of the block make itself, the only thing you need to remember is or how plan it, how many of the blocks you want to make at the time and how many sections to sew together in each direction. So just to quickly kind of recap how that block looks like, you've got 2 bits of the fabric in the middle. When you sew it together, you will make 4.5 inch square. So obviously you could here already use something else. You can put maybe a crumb block inside, something else you've got pieced together, or just a square 4.5 by 4.5. Then you will add pieces at the top and the bottom. Then we will have 2 strips of the fabric which will go sewn together here. I'm just picking random pieces. Obviously that's not what it's going to look like. You don't want to have the same pieces. You want to have a really scrappy look layout here. So those 2 pieces you will sew together, and then you will add to the block. You will do the same thing on the other side. Then we will have again 2 pieces sewn together, which will go at the top. And already, so in my cushions, this is the part of the kind of that block I've used up, because the size wise this is what I needed. But yes, so then I'm adding at the top again 2 strips and the bottom. This gives us very nice rectangle now. So if you like to work with rectangles in your quilt, you can use that layout, and that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, already 12 in kind of one size, and that will be 8 on the other when it's finished. So if you have some other blocks which are unfinished, 12.5 by 8.5, you could use that as, you know, as a mix and match there as well. And then we will take few more pieces which are then sewn in sets of 3, and we'll add it to the other side, and we will have that finished blocks. I'm just picking, like I said, something random, and that's how I usually make those blocks. Really random colors and random layouts, and that works the best. Now when you sew all of this, you can use obviously cornerstones and the frames to add some extra detail. Like I said, very versatile block, which unfinished comes 12.5 inches, and you know, you can have one this block, one crumb block, or one this block and just plain fabric. This is already busy, so you can kind of melt it down a little bit with the plain fabric as well. If you have some you know, fabrics you want to show off the designs, you can mix it up with this, and that will look great as well. So I would like to make those blocks, but this is quite easy and very popular. So let's add a little bit of kind of extra detail to it. So what I've prepared is 2.5 inch squares with the plain fabric. because I will be using scraps of different fabrics here. I want to add a little bit of detail, which will be, you know, plain, so it kind of comes out from those blocks a little bit better. So for every one of those blocks here, I will need 6 of those squares, but I would like to make 4 blocks which will have the same background fabric to work with. And that will give me nice block 24 by 24 inches or 24 and a half unfinished, and that can be a beginning of a nice quilt as well. So I will show you later when we've done those blocks how we can lay them out. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so just a little bit of preparation before we crack on with the sewing. So like I said, for one of the blocks I need 6 of those squares, and I will take 12. So I want to kind of automate a little bit how I will be working on those blocks, and I am going to be working on one at a time, but I want to chain piece whatever I can. So first of all, preparation, I will just make myself a mark on those squares. We'll be snowballing our blocks in some places. Now if you are confident, you can, you know, skip the drawing, or you can use iron to kind of iron the crease on it. And because I'm using solid fabric, I'm not fussed about which way I'm going to sew it on. Even if there's a little bit of shade difference, then that's just adding to the scrappiness. The only thing I want to make sure what is happening is that fabric has at least a little bit of contrast against the rest of the pieces. So that's why I'm using plain fabric against all of those colorful ones. If I had it other way around, that my scraps 2.5 by 4.5 scraps were maybe solid colors, if you have so many somewhere, then you know, you can use colorful pieces to snowball them. So I'm just going quickly to finish off the lines, and we'll get to the setup of the block. So we'll be working on one at a time, but trying to chain piece everything we can. Okay, so my pieces are here ready. So now I'm just gonna take some of my scraps and make some nice blocks. And you know, here I'm not so fussed about what goes next. I just again want to have a little bit of contrast and maybe not repeating the same pieces in the same block if I've got enough, but that depends what you're working with as well. It could, you know, it could look great with any combinations depending what scraps you've got. And I'm mixing here some like a normal fabric scraps. I'm mixing some shirts fabric. I'm mixing some bedding fabrics. If you have seen some of my tutorials before, you know I like to kind of upcycle everything I can, and use, you know, cheaper resources for my quilts. I don't like to make them very expensive, because then maybe I would not be able to do as many as I would like to donate. So that's the strategy I'm having, to make more. But you use whatever you've got, obviously, and go with what's comfortable for you. So I've got my layout. Let me just check if you can see it very well. Yeah, you've got all block here. So I've got my 1/4 inch foot here set up. Because there's quite a lot of seams in this block, actually being a little bit more precise than usual, it's going to be important. But just don't over stress it either, because if you sew it all together and you need to trim it, because it should be 12.5 inch when it's all sewn together, but if it isn't, just trim it to make it even, so they go nicely with other blocks. So don't kind of overthink it either. Okay, so first I'm going with the inside blocks or inside pieces, and then I will take the one from the top. Now all of those blocks for the sewing, I'll be laying them out exactly the same, and I will show you later when we put them together why. So now I've got my first block out. I can add my snowballs. So when I open it, again, always have it set up here the same way. I want to snowball two opposite corners. Now, which two corners you can decide. You can go this way like I do, or you can go other way. It's up to you. Just do it the same way all along for whole of the quilt, or for all of the blocks. So now I will just chain piece those snowballs. Now, if you've seen some of my other videos as well, you know that I do not like over iron my stuff. I mean, I only go to the iron if it's really like, you know, necessary, because that speeds up the work. But that's me. I like to have it done quickly. Now you can go and iron after each step if that's what you like to do. I just skip certain steps just to make it a bit quicker for me. That was the bottom part from here, and I can now take my next block or next corner and snowball on this side. So now I can take one of the sides to sew together. The next part. Okay, so normally you would cut that off, ironed out, and just make it nice and flat here. Now I will leave it. Your machine can go through it, and it just add a little bit more depth to that block. So I will leave it as is. So that's my center. I will just take the next piece and add it to the top. Now if you worry that you will not put the pieces back where they came from, just take a picture. I'm not worried about it, it's scrappy. But if you have a very specific layout you will be working with, then take a picture before you start pulling them out. Okay, and now I can add the bottom piece to that one. Again, I will just finger press it, make it nice and flat here. You know, if you kind of have not sewn it exactly, you can still kind of adjust a little bit here so those edges meeting. And if you kind of overshoot a little bit, as far as you align it with the base block here, you will be fine as well if you can kind of cover it up with the seams. Okay, so that's this side. What I can sew next, I can start from this side now. I just don't want to cut the thread and pull out the pieces. I don't know how far I can go with that process like that, but we'll try, isn't it? So okay, blue was on the left, so I will keep it. So now I'm just adding the side here. Here there are no seams which are kind of have to match up or nest. So that's again very easy block and very kind of beginners friendly. I just want to make sure my top and bottom matches. That's it. Anything in between is just going in. And now I can take this piece and add to it. And then I can take the other side of that one and add to it. Okay, let's take the other side now for stitching. I think I will run out of the pieces to stitch in between the snowballing, but that's fine. If you have a bigger space, you could possibly set up second one somewhere and start sewing bits together as well, or just do one at a time. Either way is fine. Okay, so that's that block, and now I want to, okay, this way, blue to the left. Now I want to snowball again this corner here. So I'm just going with the direction of those corners here. Again, I didn't iron here, but you can obviously take it to the iron before you start stitching there. Do whatever is, you know, comfortable for you. Everyone should kind of work out their own process, but also don't be afraid to try something new. Okay, so like I said, I've now run out of the pieces I can stitch in between, so I'm gonna have to cut the thread, unless I had another block kind of ready to go and set up, so I could do that, but that's fine. So I will again finger press my corners, and I'm not cutting them off. I will just leave them as is. This method is also good if that fabric you'll be using on the top is maybe a little bit thinner or sheer, because double portion of it will make it look good as well. So another way of using up your scraps. So I need to put the top and bottom for this block. Again, nothing is being kind of match up, just the beginning and the end must match. Anything else, you know, whichever it goes, it goes. While you watch the process, I would like to take a minute to thank you all who supporting my channel by not skipping the adverts going with my videos. I only set them up so they appear at the beginning, at the end of the tutorial. There's nothing in between, so you can take it as a, you know, quick break for a toilet, or maybe make yourself a cup of tea or cup of coffee before you start watching. And very, very big thanks to those who donated a few pounds or any other currency via YouTube Super Thanks, or bought a virtual coffee or lunch via my website. This is really heartwarming and kind of is building up my confidence that what I do, it's, you know, you like it. So thank you very much again. And I would like to encourage you all to pop on my website, just have a look what is there, and hopefully maybe even subscribe to receive notifications from me. Okay, so that's the block. We have used 4 and we need 6 of those, so you might have guessed we'll add another snowball on both sides here in the same direction as they're going out. And I will make 3 more of those blocks with the same color of the rectangle, square, sorry, and I will lay them out exactly the same way. So I won't be changing it going this way. I will lay them out exactly the same way, and I will put those snowballs in the same corners. I will do them now, and I will show you what we can come up with when they will put them together. So here are my 4 blocks. As they came out from the sewing, they laid out exactly the same way. And to be honest, if you have added some sashing and maybe with the same cornerstone, the same color of the cornerstone in between them, that will be another layout you can achieve from that block. But let's just go to the next picture. That's the layout I had in mind, where those arrows meeting in the middle, because I've called that that pattern crossing fields or crossing potato fields. So that's where that cross kind of coming up when they all meeting in the middle. Now I did use 6 different colors of the plain fabric to make those blocks. I made 24 blocks, 4 blocks of each different color. So here I mixed up my green with like pinkish color. It may not come up perfectly on the picture, but you can see how it will look if we mix up 2 colors of the plain fabric here. And here I've added blue and the brown as well. So you really want to use the fabric for the snowballing to give you a good contrast with the fabrics you're using. On some here maybe they are not coming across so well. The other thing you can do is actually increase the snowball corner size of the square. So if I started from the 2.5 inch, the next one I could have done maybe 3 inches, and the last one 3.5. So even if that contrast is not that big, if I had the bigger pieces of the plain fabric, they will be visible better as well. So that's another option if you worry that it's not going to be visible that much. And on this picture I kind of laid them out a little bit differently. So in the other pictures they were meeting in the middle. Here kind of they're going away from each other, but that gives you that secondary pattern. So if I put a little bit more blocks together, like on this picture, so you can see I've got my crosses from like different colors. That's the top left and bottom right. So where there's that other kind of section where the next cross would started, we've got that kind of circle outside. So here you've got 9 blocks, so that would have been 36 inches. But if you have added another row, another column, you had 4x4 layout. That's nice baby quilt. If you add another row, so you would have layout 4 by maybe 5 or 4 by 6, maybe even better, you would have a nice lap quilt. So really very versatile block, lots of scraps to use up, and you know, you can build anything you want out of it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and it will encourage you to try out something new with that block. All the details of where you can find me are in the description below. That's the Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, and now, as mentioned before, my own website. If you like this video, I will be very grateful if you leave your comment, thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so you don't miss any future scrappy tutorials. Thank you for joining, thank you for watching, and see you next time.